What up, guys? It's your boy Nick again from Empollege. Glad you joined me for the second part in the video of how not to drop out and to have success in this video. So I'm glad you're able to join me. So in this video, we're gonna talk about how I was able to get through college without falling asleep or pulling all-nighters, being slumped. Let's get right into this video. Hey guys, thanks again for joining me. Thanks for tuning into the last video. If you didn't check out that last video, by all means, you need to check that out. That's the first step. So in the last video, I talked about how you need to actually plan it out, make a plan, look at your plan and being like, okay, this is something that I actually want to do. Because there's no point in me teaching you any cool tricks and tips if it's not something that you actually want to do and you can see yourself with a legit plan with a budget and all working it out. So let's get right into this one. I'm going to be explaining how I was able to not have to pull any all-nighters while I went through college, which is going to be really cool. Again, my name is Nick. I graduated about a year and a half and I was in school for about 6 years, so I developed a couple of tricks here and there on how to actually kind of hack college because I was in there for long enough. I tend to refer to college somewhat like imprisonment. It's like, yeah, I got out about a year and a half ago. My degree, I actually moved it, and don't be freaked out by the different camera. I moved the degree to down over there by the printer because you know, it fits the aesthetic. So I'm just really grateful that you joined. So the first thing to note when it comes to actually looking at not having to pull all-nighters is what you have to do is you have to make sure that you know that your health is priority number one. Right? So your health is priority number one out of all the things. You cannot function right if you don't take care of your body. I know, like, my fellow students, they'll be like, yeah, I'll sleep when I'm out of college, I'll do this, I'll do that, but by the time they get out, they're limping out of college, and it's not as fun, right? So you have to treat your body well, right? So you have to start off by doing things like making sure that you have a timely sleep schedule. So you go to sleep at the same time every night, and you wake up at the same time every night as well. They call it circadian rhythm. I'm pretty sure most of us have gone through that class in college where they talk about it. Maybe you slept through that class. But it is very important to keep that circadian rhythm so your brain knows when to wake up and when to go to sleep. Because when you wake up at a specific time, you're able to be more alert. You can actually plan your days and do the things that you need to do to make sure that your body is able to take in the information that you are going to push it to understand. Second piece of information you really need to pay attention to is you need to understand the material. So when I say understand the material, I mean like the class that you're going into. And it's not in a very like, oh, I gotta understand every bit, but mostly going at a brief overview. I, for the most part, actually like glazed past the syllabus in the beginning part of my college experience because I didn't really know how important it was. But you want to make sure you examine this key part that I'm just about to talk about. The key part that you need to examine is the grades breakdown, right? Classes actually have different grading scales, and some classes have different pass-fail scales. So that's something that you want to examine first, and you want to examine the distribution behind all of your different course load, right? You have your tests. Sometimes they break it down into first 3 tests or first 2 tests in a final and a homework or a lab or whatever, but you want to look at all of those and see which ones are weighted the highest, because the one that's weighted the highest is the one you should pay attention to the most. Something that is very important though, that should never be skipped, is homework. I personally didn't like doing it, but having that practice actually helped. And if it's on the lower end of the spectrum, like maybe 5% is homework, maybe not go all the way focused on it, but it's very important to get the concepts that would eventually lead you to understand the things that will appear on the tests. Also, for a brief period before and after class, just to get your brain rolling on what needs to be learned, you should give yourself 15 minutes before class and 15 minutes after class to fully absorb the information. I know for me, what tended to happen was I went into class, and I took a bunch of information that was all brand new to me. I had no exposure to it. I got out of class and then everything would seem cool. You'd be like, yeah, everything makes sense. This class is not that bad. You get home, you're like,
what did my professor say again?
you're just like, oh man. It's a lot harder when you get home and you don't know what's going on because your professor is not actively there. So you're just like, what do I do? So I recommend that you actually look over the information that you're supposed to go over 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after, so you can check yourself before the class, and then after the class you can check what you know as well. When you have that 15 minutes, you can use that time to create questions to go in beforehand. Like, this seems very confusing, this doesn't necessarily work, blah, blah, blah. So you can be able to actually get all the information from each class that you do go through. If all this information is being received well, why don't you just leave a comment down below? Let me know any other question you'd like for me to ask, or any question, maybe any comment that you would like to leave. Really appreciate it. Let's get back into it. So the third thing you need to do is you need to create a schedule. So I know, like, it's nice to be like, oh, I'm cool, I'm gonna fly by the seat of my pants, if that phrase isn't outdated, or I'm just gonna, YOLO, I'm gonna just live as it is, whatever comes, go with the flow. That is cool and all, but going with the flow is not what you need if you're trying to get out of college with little stress. Because what will happen when you're going with the flow is the flow will get going. All right, so you'll be, I'm cruising along, and then a tidal wave come and hit you.
What is that? A test. Oh snap, I forgot I had a test today. That's not fun, right? Or, oh snap, homework was due today. Oh snap, I stayed up too late.
Having that schedule is very important to be able to actually navigate the way through college, because you are then able to plan out your study times. So I recommend doing a weekly schedule, not a daily schedule, because you might get, backed up somewhere. Creating a weekly schedule and sticking to it as much as possible. Make room for flexibility, meaning you can move it around and put things where you need to put it if flexibility is needed, but you definitely need a schedule. If you do not have a schedule, it's like trying to learn calculus without the book. You're just like, oh, I know I'm supposed to move this thing here, but how do you actually know? You don't really know. So I recommend getting a schedule, because that's very important. Now that you've set up your schedule, that's awesome. Now it's coming to the fourth tip. The fourth tip is, when you are studying, have fun, right? Have fun, make games with yourself. This is gonna be really pivotal when you're studying, because your brain needs breaks. So something that I actually recommend is Pomodoro timer. It's like 25 minutes and then 5 minutes break. I tend to like watch a video or something like that to, get my brain some break, and I feel like, oh man, I'm not, I don't have to clock in for 8 hours at a time to study, which is nice and all, but we know we get fried. Cramming all that information is not the best thing for us. We're not meant to focus for hours upon end. We're meant to take breaks. And something that tends to happen when you don't take breaks is you burn out. You're like, I don't want to study anymore, man. I want to do anything but study. So that's why that's very important. So you don't burn out, but you're able to keep your brain fresh while you're studying. I know some of you are thinking, oh, this only applies to you, Nick. This only applies to your major, or it only happened when you were in school, and it's a bit late for me. Well, I want to tell you that it is never too late. And it does apply to you, because I was down too. I was there. I was getting D's and looking at my grades and be like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to bring this up. It was the middle of the semester, and my first test was 30%, and the next test was 15%, and that's when I unlocked the key to be able to overcome this. So I promise that it will apply to you. All you have to do is follow them through and have a little bit of faith and perseverance. And in the next video, I am going to talk about how to actually have personal success in college, meaning I'm gonna go into more pro tips of how I was able to pass 3 of the hardest classes that I had during my entire degree program all at once. I'm gonna go into the details with that. So subscribe so you don't miss any content, because all this information I'm gonna keep rolling out so you can have success in college. So until next time, stay empowered. See you in the next Empollege.